Hey, what's up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to talk about AD and DA converters and why they're so important in a recording studio, whether you're a home studio or something much larger. By the way, my name is Duce, and before we get into the video and talk about all this stuff, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. It helps YouTube know to share it with other people like yourself. And don't forget to subscribe. That way you can get updated on videos I put out as well as other content. First, let's define what AD and DA converters are. They stand for analog to digital and digital to analog. These are responsible for converting audio signals between their analog and digital forms. So you might ask, why are these converters so important in your recording studio? Well, when you're recording music of any type these days, or really any audio, we typically use digital audio recording devices like computers, phones, digital audio multi-track workstations, or basically any digital recording device, really. The real world is analog, so your speakers pushing sound, air and sound out. It's basically just forcing movement of air molecules and what you hear. In order to record these analog signals digitally, we need to convert them to a digital format, and we use an AD converter for that. When you want to play back that audio you've recorded, we need to convert it back to an analog signal so we can hear it through speakers or headphones, and that's where the DA converters come in. So it's kind of vital, as you can see, for AD and DA converters. They're basically a must when producing music or from a digital audio environment. It's not just about recording music. AD and DA converters are used in lots of other applications like television, radio, telecommunications. Even these technologies are used, and the sample rates are used in radar technologies to make them work properly. Really, what makes a good AD and DA converter? Well, there are a few key factors to consider when choosing a converter. First is the resolution bit depth of the converter. This refers to the number of bits that are used to represent each sample. A higher bit depth means a higher resolution, more accurate representation of the original signal. But there's also another factor to consider, which is sample rate. Basically, how fast you're sampling the sound over a period of time. You may recognize like 44.1 or 48 or 96. Those are sample rates. Basically, the number of times it's sampled per second in the converter. Now, if it's like 44.1, that means it's going to get sampled 44,100 times per second. And same for the other versions, like 48 would be 48,000, etc. So higher sample rates means a much higher quality and more accurate representation of the audio, really. So finally, the converter technology that also affects the quality of the conversion. There are several different types of converter technology, including pulse code modulation, also known as PCM. You'll see this in a lot of DAWs. It's used because it's efficient in a computer, especially with older computers. There's delta sigma, which is a much more accurate, much slower, less efficient type. And then there's a hybrid of the both. Each type has its pros and cons, like I just mentioned. The higher end converters usually use delta sigma converters, but they're a lot slower, but much more accurate, basically producing a much higher quality result in what you hear. This is what you'll find in like mastering facilities. If you go have your track professionally mastered at a facility that just masters, they're going to have delta sigma converters. They might even sample that at upwards of 700,000 samples per second. So super accurate, super detailed, and very transparent converters. They don't tend to color the sound very much. They sound great. You can hear much more depth and width and dimension to the audio with these much higher sample rates with much higher quality converters. Like I said before, most DAWs use PCM base because of speed and processing power. It's much more efficient. If you've ever swapped or upgraded audio interfaces, you may have noticed a difference in quality, in depth and loudness, and this can be attributed to the type of converters and the quality of the converters when they're manufactured. Especially on the playback from your DAW. And this is where high-end speakers come into. They can take advantage of higher-end quality converters. But there's a great benefit to quality converters when recording audio. This leads to cleaner and more accurate recordings. And with those cleaner, more accurate recordings, you tend to have more headroom oftentimes, and just a better, cleaner sound overall. Makes it much easier to mix, makes it much easier to manipulate and edit and clean up and everything else. It's just a much better sounding converter. Basically, that's an overview of the AD and DA converters and why they're so important in recording studios. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing. I post all kinds of tips, tutorials, reviews. I also post beats on here as well for artists looking for music for their projects. You can find my beats at ducebeats.com. You can also find my music on this channel as well and on all major streaming platforms. I do appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Peace.